And welcome everybody. We are well into the first week of February, which would probably suggest it's night time that we were into our second show of the year. And so we are here with the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio and I'm joined, as always, by former Grand Prix grid girl, Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, I'm shattered. I can't. It's cost me a lot of work.
Yeah, I know. Just this week they've axed. But did you hear this morning they're replacing them with grid kids? This is true.
Oh, right.
So
it's only a matter of time until a kid gets hit by an F1 car then. Something dangerous is going to happen.
I think we've been hanging out for this, the Grand Prix. You know, let's get rid of paid professional models and go back to child labour.
Yeah, child labour is always my preference.
And at the end of the day, yeah, they can always ship back to their sweatshops and
it is a relief
factories.
For me, though, because it means I can finally let my body go.
Because you have had to be very watchful of it the last few years.
Oh, yeah. Actually, your open heart surgery last year has got me back to the gym. Which when I say back to, did I say back to there'd been a time before?
I was implying
it's
that
awful.
You've been there a million times.
It's awful.
Yeah, so.
Why do people do it? Yeah. I suppose not to die. I mean, that's the only thing that would ever get me to do exercise is the fear of death.
It's like that great Simpsons episode where Homer looks up at the sign that says Jim and goes, "Gime? What's a gime?"
Oh, well, we should thank our supporters once again. I want to also just mention, as I did last year, I'm doing the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. I've got a show there.
You're the international bit, aren't you?
I'm the international, yes, wide-ranging as Melbourne. And I'm doing the Sydney Comedy Festival as well. So tickets are on sale. I'll put the link in here, but Frontier Touring has all the links to all the tickets and stuff. If you just type in Titus O'Reilly when you get there, you'll find it. And sort of roughly based on the book, but all the book I just did recently, but everything's... the jokes are all new.
Everything's open.
I'm not just paraphrasing the book for an hour.
I mean, you'll probably do a bit on AFLW, which they just had the launch for that this morning.
I saw that on social media.
Invited to the launch.
Can you believe it?
Enough.
Turns out if you slag it from day one.
So now we have to just bag it from
yeah, they made a huge mistake.
Yeah, they should have got us along there.
We're a powerful force in AFL broadcasting. They better watch out. So that tickets are coming up to that now. I've had a few people say, well, why am I only doing Melbourne and Sydney? Well, they're the ones that are booked in now, but the idea is the show could really go anywhere. So if it basically sells okay, there's no reason I won't
the road, Jack.
Go to Adelaide or Perth or Canberra, Brisbane, all those places, Hobart. I'm going to get down to Hobart this year. Do you want to go to Hobart this year?
Yeah, I'll happily go to Hobart.
I reckon
you could be opening for Ed Sheeran the way this is.
In Hobart?
At Etihad.
Because there's nothing an Ed Sheeran fan would like more than the bloke to get up and do a few hours of AFL comedy.
A bloke in a hat chatting about
AFL.
The JLT series.
Can you imagine there's like most of them would just not get any of the references. It would just bomb.
There'll be 40,000 12-year-olds.
In silence. In fact, that wouldn't be that unlike my actual gigs.
Just a bigger crowd.
That's right.
Bigger, younger crowd.
Anyway, guys, there's merch out the back if you're interested. I've been trying to say, Riley, stick around for Ed Sheeran. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's when you know Ed Sheeran. If I'm ever opening for Ed Sheeran, you know that his career's really gone a cropper.
Well, that'll be when Ed Sheeran's playing the Dingley International.
Top of the agenda today, Serge.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on lately, but this has got to be the number one story of the week.
I think regular listeners to this podcast will know we always put an order of importance. Number one, the top thing, and this is the biggest story in sport
that is
at the moment.
Without question.
It's about a testosterone-charged young kangaroo that's been terrorising the Southport Golf Club.
There you go.
This happened last week.
Been terrorising?
Well, it's a male eastern grey roo. Is that what's your favourite kangaroo?
I always like the big red one.
Big red. Yeah. You're like a kid. Yeah. I like the big red one. Goes faster. So apparently here there was this kangaroo that had been hanging around the Southport Golf Club for years. And it went from being quite docile. Basically, it got to being fully grown, a sort of teenage male.
Right.
And went right off. So what happened is the general manager, Nick Robinson, said that the roo had snapped at least half a dozen fiberglass flag sticks. He said mainly the ones on the 5th and the 10th green. Apparently he would push them and they would spring back and hit him and he'd get really angry.
Oh, you can't blame him for that.
Just fight the flags. Not realising it was an inanimate object.
Is this a testosterone charged?
Apparently it was testosterone. He also dug I'll get to why they think that. He also dug a big hole that was a foot wide on the 5th green, making it a very hard path to get past.
He's obviously not happy with his putting.
It says also there were reports that the Big Roo had been displaying randy traits in front of members.
Randy traits in front. What would a
randy traits sounds like a country and western singer.
It does.
Have you got the latest Randy Traits album?
Yeah.
So apparently he was doing that, and he would also stand at the gate. There was a gate at the gate to enter into the golf course, and grunt threateningly at anyone that went through, like a bouncer.
I was about to say, I've seen guys in a pro shop like that.
One in, one out.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Not no shoes.
As well as doing that, they thought about one of the options was to bring in a female roo for company to maybe just take his mind off. Threatening the members.
Or maybe confiscate his iPad. Probably not a bad idea either.
That's your answer to everything. That's how you want to deal with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Just take away his iPad.
Take away his iPad, it'd be fine then.
For a month. They thought about that, but then they thought that what would happen is they'd suddenly have a couple of roos, but then that would quickly become 10 or 12 kangaroos down the track.
Randy traits.
And then that would just be, they'd suddenly have 10 or 12 problems instead of one.
Just snapping flags all over the course.
Club member Michael Johnson. So there's some great quotes here from the members. Yeah. So they name the roo Marshall.
Did they?
Yeah, as in like boss of the course kind of thing. Was the members Marshall, voted before he went all Randy flag snapping.
Yeah, Randy flag snapping.
That's a wrestler, right there. They liked having him around as a bit of a mascot, but he said club member Michael Johnson said that, so they named him Marshall. He said he'd seen Marshall around many times, and the horny roo had become a bit of a local legend over the past year. And this is a direct quote from Michael Johnson.
Southport.
This is Michael Johnson's quote. He hasn't mounted me yet, thankfully. Yeah. He said he's got more cheeky.
You protest a bit too much there, Michael.
Yeah. Golfer Ian Fitzgerald said Marshall had a big, in quotes, a reputation around the holes. He was a popular fella, but he broke flag sticks and ripped holes in the greens and was a little bit horny. So this, I thought they were talking about you at
first. They're making a lot of assumptions, these members. How do they know he's a little bit horny?
Well, I think they could tell. I think they could tell. Right. Keen golfer John Cox offered up a suggestion of the name when they were naming him. They wanted to call him Ted because without a female, he was Roo Ted.
Oh, Coxie, you're on fire.
Coxie, you can just see the journalists rocked out to do the interviews and all the members in the bar just went, I'm going to give him my best gear.
Yeah. And they're all struggling and then they go, oh, Coxie will have something good. Call Coxie down.
Yeah. Coxie went on to say he would pull the flags and it would flick back and smack him in the face and then he'd get cranky and snap them.
Well, you can't blame him for that.
We've all done that on the golf course.
Exactly.
So they've...
he didn't throw his clubs into the water, John Daly style.
So they had to call in basically some wildlife officers who relocated him to Wildcare Australia.
Oh, that's a shame.
Where he can now be seen on the 5th. So that's the number one sports story in Australia this week.
I was going to say one of the members is,
shacked up with him.
Or put a bullet through him or something.
Well, yeah, up in Queensland.
Anything could happen up
Put
there.
A T-shirt cannon through him.
On the Gold Coast.
The other thing, probably not as big as the horny roo on the golf course, but a big story this week, obviously, was the BBL final. where we had the women's and the men's both decided. And congrats to the Adelaide Strikers in the men's and the Sydney Sixers in the WBBL for winning.
Yes.
Now, Channel 10 interestingly made a decision that they would not run the BBL in prime time, normal prime time. Instead, started at about, I think it was like.
We only discovered this like as it happened on Sunday.
4:30 it started in the afternoon, which I flicked it on thinking I was going to get a couple hours of pre-game nonsense, and the first ball was being bounced.
Well, I reckon they kept this very quiet, Channel 10, because on Sunday night, two boys are going, oh, let's put the cricket on. And, of course, my wife goes, oh, no, we have to watch the bloody cricket again. We flicked it over and we got 2 overs to go and then straight to the jungle.
Well, that was why they put it on early, so they didn't want to interrupt the jungle, which is what is wrong with Australia.
Yeah.
If you're taking a sporting final out of prime time to show a reality TV show.
And not just a sporting final, one of the great traditions of Australian sport, which is the Big Bash.
I remember watching it with my dad.
I mean, you look at those old black and white newsreels of the Big Bash back in the 30s.
Who can forget, not since Bradman led the Strikers to the BBL final, there's been such a crowd at Adelaide Oval.
I still remember the controversy when Neil Harvey crossed from the Hurricanes.
So they moved it forward so that they could play I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and they also had scheduled Cricket Australia, not Channel 10, had scheduled the 2020 International Try Series right in the middle of the BBL playoffs, meaning that they couldn't have the BBL final on the Saturday night because they had this Australia playing, which no one, I think, watched.
A Try Series, again, so that implies there's two other teams. Who were they? New Zealand
it's England and so I haven't even been watching it.
Exactly. Nobody even knew it was on.
So it was it's completely pointless.
Yeah.
So it had a big impact. So Brian Haynes wrote in, on a scale of 1 to 10, how thrilled were the BBL hierarchy that the final was in Adelaide playing Hobart?
They probably hadn't penciled that one in at the start of the year.
Not the biggest markets you're going to have. Chris Dawn wrote in, should the NFL have programmed the Super Bowl 4 hours earlier so that everyone could watch Mundine and Danny Green have an eating contest in the South African jungle?
Yeah, well, that's a fair point too.
I mean, what other sport would say, we'll move our final?
Yeah.
So that you can have a reality TV show.
Watch two washed-up boxers both vomiting on TV. They both did. They both threw up.
And Channel 10 all through the BBL final kept saying, Mundine and Green tonight, these two don't like each other. Yeah. And I'm thinking, we all saw the last fight. No one cares if they fought. Yeah. They can't, in a proper boxing match, they're terrible.
Yeah.
You know?
And there was the controversy like last week when Brendan Favola came out and said, this whole they hate each other is all crap. They're actually mates. They just play this up because it cranks up
their money
for every fight. Nobody wants to see two mates go at it in the ring. They want to see two arch enemies.
Yeah.
And so that ups the ante. And of course, they've all come out and said that that's not true. But I reckon Fev's may be on the money here.
Or he's been watching too much wrestling.
Yeah, or he's just been... He's just remembering.
He's never been wrong before, Viv.
His time in the jungle. Yeah.
It was sort of bizarre them having it on so early. So I don't know. It is interesting. I heard that Channel 9 have bid for the whole cricket rights in the new deal. And wouldn't that be great if Channel 9 got everything?
Yeah. And I also heard Foxtel have also put in a bid for the whole shebang.
What, on their own?
On their own. They want to stand alone. This was just late yesterday already. The new CEO of Foxtel, Patrick Delaney, who I think came from Fox Sports, he said, no, we're going to have a good crack at this, and we're putting in a bid for everything. They want the Test series, they want the one-dayers, and they want the Big Bash.
But when you think about it, for Foxtel, the only reason we're streaming on everything else, the only reason you would have Foxtel these days is for the sports rights. I mean, I know that's not everyone, but if you weren't into sport at all, I can't see why you would have Foxtel. You'd just buy Netflix, Stan, you'd buy things on iTunes, and that was it. So the only reason I've kept Foxtel is for the AFL.
Yeah, or Foxtel, or Fox Sports especially, they do need to lift their game a bit and get some more stuff on there. They've really missed the English Premier League soccer over the last year or two. Because just over on the weekend, before the cricket started and what have you, if you flicked around, I did this a couple of times, flicked all around Fox Sports, and it was mostly replays or old docos or US college basketball. Now, nobody cares about college basketball over here. You know, the NBA is different, but US college basketball, and they really need some more
Well,
stuff on
people
them.
like the March Madness tournament, but that's sort of the main thing. Like the rest of the,
They need to up the ante.
But also the problem is they don't, like, they have a few NBA games a week, but if you're really into the NBA, or same with the NFL or the Major League Baseball or the ice hockey, right? You're like me, you've just paid for the streaming. And through your Apple TV or whatever, on your iPad or whatever, you can watch any game all the time. So there's like between ice hockey and say basketball that's on now, I got like 10 games a day I can choose from.
Yeah. Well,
I can actually get around to doing some work. But, you know, why am I going to buy, you know,
why are you going to do that?
They can't compete because, you know, they've only got 5 channels and now it's 5 channels of nothing.
Yeah. No, that is very true, but we'll see what happens there with the cricket. But the point you raised before, how terrific would it be to have Channel 9 have all cricket? Would you know? You'd have the Channel 9 commentary team doing the big.
That's where I just because Channel 10, apart from moving it, apart from the, you know, it's really a vehicle for the Jungle Show, have done a good job.
Yeah.
And so the idea of it going to Channel 9 with their whole thing is like.
And it's two completely different audiences. I mean, Big Bash is unabashedly aimed at kids, both the live product at the cricket grounds and the TV.
Yeah.
And they've done it very well over the last few years. I think even the first year, even Channel 10 was surprised at how well it went.
Yeah.
So now it's an absolute, you know, gilt-edged sport to have on your
they'll
roster.
get a bit of money. Ben Wesley wrote in, with so many sportsmen desperate for relevance going to the jungle, how long until North Melbourne use I'm a Celebrity for pre-season training camps?
That is a very, very good question.
Now, the Super Bowl was yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, just while we're on Mundine and Danny Green.
Oh, yes.
How was Anthony Mundine's comments?
Which ones? Because he's done a few.
Women shouldn't wear skirts above the knee.
Oh, I agree entirely. Neither should men.
You want to protect your women, Mundine said. This is where
that's his way of protecting them.
This is where I think he also struggles with his vocabulary at times. You don't want other men having prerogative thoughts about your girl or your daughter. I know whenever I have a prerogative thought, I just ban it from my mind immediately.
Whenever I want subtle social commentary, I think, who's someone that's been hit in the head a lot?
Not only in the boxing ring, but also just on the rugby league field, probably growing up in the Mundine family.
So anyway, that does not surprise me in the slightest. Super Bowl was yesterday. Did you get to watch it?
I watched the entire thing, and I reckon it was one of the best Super Bowl matches for years.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, it was all-out attack from the word go, and both sides attacking teams had the wood on the defence. So at halftime, I thought the final score here could be 60 to 58. The way they're going.
It was a great game.
It was a terrific game to watch.
And big plays, had everything you wanted in a...
That trick play that Philadelphia did late in the second quarter when Foles ran in as the receiver was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was terrific. And it's funny in Australia, it's just... I remember watching, the 49ers playing in Super Bowls in the 90s, and that was the only game shown in the whole year. And
you have Don Lane to
and I remember Don Lane, doing all the hosting and stuff. And now you get the interest in it has gone up huge notch. People take days off work to watch it. It's a great it is a great event. Philadelphia Eagles won. Now, for people who don't know NFL, Philadelphia Eagles are totally the Richmond of the NFL. They haven't won. Well, they haven't won a Super Bowl before, but this is the first time in a very long time. But also, so this was their first, and it's taken a very long time to get there. But also, their fans are absolute ferals. Yeah. They throw batteries at people. Can you
explain the battery thing?
They've caught throwing batteries at people before in fights and stuff. They also, in the lead up to
batteries.
Well, why not?
Well, that's true.
They've also just these playoffs. 4 Philadelphia Eagles fans have been arrested for punching police horses.
Not one.
Not one. Like, that's a trend.
And not once has the horse gone down.
So they've done that. Now, of course, so everyone knew, like, it's sort of universally known over there that Philadelphia sporting fans are just horrendous. And so to the point where they thought if they lose, like, the city of Philadelphia was just going to get torn apart, right?
Yeah, be right.
There was also great concerns, much like with Richmond, that it would just be as bad if they won.
Yeah, and I think that's turned out to be the case.
So what actually happened is before the actual Super Bowl, one thing that happens a lot in America whenever anyone wins is people seem to try and just climb anything to get as high as possible above the crowd.
Above the crowd,
so street poles and all that sort of stuff, light poles and all that sort of stuff. So in the main strip, which is Broad Street in Philadelphia, the city officials went along and got hydraulic fluid and put it all on with these rollers on all of them, so you couldn't climb. They greased them up so you couldn't climb the poles, right? So anyway, once they won, everyone ran outside and it was a huge thing, and cars were rolled over, fires were started in the street, people rode on top of cars rather than inside them, and then they do this leap of faith thing where they get up as high as they can and jump into the crowd backwards. They just, but like not just like off a table. Like I'm talking like they're on this awning at the Ritz Hotel. There's this huge awning, and they were doing all that, which I think collapsed later on.
Well, I heard, you may have heard the story. I don't know whether it's true or not, but apparently there was a story going around this morning that when the Patriots left the stadium yesterday after the game, that there was a whole bunch of Philadelphia supporters outside the stadium in Minnesota, and they saw Tom Brady in his car, and they rolled the car with Tom Brady in it.
Really?
I heard the story this morning.
Let's just assume it's true.
I'd like to think. I just wish that last year. Imagine if Richmond supporters had done that to Tex Walker after the game. You would have loved to have seen that. So I think that story is not true.
Yeah.
He probably would have been on the team bus anyway.
They also said US media reported multiple people sustained injuries after falling from poles.
So they did manage to get up the greased poles.
Yeah, many of them did. Not all of the poles could be greased. Some they found them wherever they could. The other thing that someone on social media posted the police scanner from the night, and it sounds like Fallujah more than Philadelphia. So well done to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I never quite understood the mentality of we've won the premiership or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's trash the joint.
Yeah. I know. You only do that if you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Corey Wickett wrote in, did you see that? So we should just mention the halftime entertainment was Justin Timberlake.
Which I think proved once and for all that he has barely got one decent song in him. He did.
I did find it I thought it was a, slick but underwhelming performance, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of bits where it was just snippets of his songs, and I know that's what it was meant to be, but then he didn't even sing during the snippet of that bit. So you kind of
and the thing is, as you say, it was like a medley of like 5 of his songs, but you couldn't tell where one stopped and the next one started because they're all the same. the only time it sounded different was when he sang the Prince song, which just proved to everyone how crap his songs are compared to Prince. I mean, I thought Timberlake, his performance was fine. The production.
Well, that's what I mean.
The production's always spectacular.
I thought it lacked anything really.
He just doesn't have the material to go with the performance.
Oh, controversial. There'll be letters, Serge.
He ain't Bruce Springsteen or Madonna or U2. You can just.
Well, I thought it was telling
which
that
songs do you leave out?
All his songs were from his first and second albums.
Well, his new
nothing
album
from his last.
It's just been trashed by the critics.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, are you upset? Is that why you're so upset? You've been looking forward to it forever, and now you've turned on him totally. Corey Wickett wrote in with a sheet of Prince singing at the halftime show. Now this was behind the piano he was playing because it was in Minnesota. And Prince is from Minnesota. They projected Prince onto this big sheet flying in the background.
And that was controversial in itself.
Why is that?
Because Prince had said in interviews before he died, he hates that dead performers singing with live performers with technology and stuff like that. He described it as demonic.
Well, because there was talk of having a hologram of him, and that the family said no. So apparently they're okay with this, but not the. So Corey Wickerham, with a sheet of Prince singing at the halftime show, is it reasonable to think the AFL will now do the same using Meatloaf's previous grand final performance?
Geez, you'd need a big sheet, wouldn't you? That'd be a big sheet.
Get a couple of kings.
Be one of those big sheets, they pass down across the top of the stand.
I hope someone with Photoshop skills can get that image of Justin Timberlake playing in front of the print sheet and change the Prince
to
Meatloaf at the grand final. Like, if someone can do that out there and let me know, I'll be tweeting that out and giving them credit, because that would be terrific. Taylor Brasser wrote in, when are the NFL going to follow the AFL's lead and have a daytime Super Bowl? Because that's what everyone says. They just whinge about how bad the AFL's one is.
Yeah, I mean, this happens every year.
But the AFL nailed it with the Killers. The Killers were way better than Justin Timberlake's thing, even with all the money they spent. And I know I sound like an ancient person, an ancient guy here, but I like the day. I like the AFL grand final just as it is. It's a great day. It just works well.
Yeah, I
After
agree.
the game, you got a whole night ahead of you to celebrate and have fun. Like, it's not, kids can watch it easily. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just works. Like,
it does. It is, forgetting the entertainment. Yeah, sure. In a darkened stadium, it might look a bit better, but the day itself, just as you say, it just works.
And the footy is better during the day.
Yeah,
it is, it just. And I like the fact that you can start drinking at 6 a.m. and no one judges you. I like they had the breakfast, the thing, and just as you're sort of ready for it, you're not waiting all whole day.
See, if the game was to start at 7 o'clock at night and you start drinking at 6 a.m., you're in no shape.
No, that's what I always think.
But also they've got to think of the drunks.
I know they all say, and maybe I'm probably wrong on this, right?
Yeah.
I say this knowing I'm probably wrong, but are the TV ratings really going to be that much higher if it's in prime time? Like, I know they'll probably say, well, the northern states and that will tune in more. Like, but I kind of go, well, what point are you just? It works. Like,
well, they're going to get 3 or 4 million viewers anyway.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, they must know, and it must be that they're going to get a lot more.
They just know they'll be able to charge more for their ads.
But it's the number. But can't they charge a fortune anyway? Because
they do anyhow.
Yeah.
But,
so I mean, at what point? I know. Like, anyway,
I agree. But
the AFL will cave at some point.
It will probably happen. They'll cave in.
Of course they will.
Or Gil wants it, doesn't he?
I don't know if he personally wants it, but I mean, like, they often cave to the broadcaster because the broadcaster's giving them $1 billion, like $1.5 billion. Exactly. So anyone gives you $1.5 billion, and you're kind of under a bit of pressure to perhaps do what they say.
$1.5 billion, they could play it Tuesday at 4 a.m. as far as I'm concerned.
David Lloyd wrote in. Oh, sorry, Sean wrote in. Well, good. Sean wrote in. As great as the Super Bowl was, how many kinds of salt do they have at their stadiums?
Good question.
So our listeners go straight to the important points. Etihad Stadium has 4 if you count plain normal salt.
Yeah.
They've got a special salt.
They've got chicken salt.
Oh, no, I don't think they have chicken. No, it's not chicken. No, it's a herb and something, and then they've got a chili and lime, and then a herb and something salt. And then the special salt, I think, is just swept up whatever fell on the floor the week before.
That's salt with a bit of pepper.
Bit of grit.
Yeah.
Good for you. But I don't imagine the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, apparently, the prices for food and drinks
were through the roof.
Like, just ridiculous.
Yeah,
mate.
I mean, I saw somebody put on Twitter a photo of the price board at one of the bars, and it was like $15 for a stubby of Bud Light.
Ugh.
And $17 if you wanted a Corona or something. That's really expensive.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That makes
on the other side of the coin, they did serve them in glass bottles, which they won't do here.
So, really?
So you could throw them if you wanted to. You could turn them into weapons after the game.
They're too expensive.
If you're going to punch a police horse, you might as well do it with a bottle rather than your hand.
That's the quote that I'll read out at your funeral. As the great man once said, if you're going to punch a police horse, you might as well do it with a bottle. Please don't send in letters. Dave Lloyd wrote in, what would you prefer to sit through, a Super Bowl or a full season of AFL? Note, a full season of AFLX is shorter than a Super Bowl, which is probably true.
Yeah, that's true. That is one thing that a lot of people can't get their head around about how slowly NFL games are.
Well, it's built
they
around...
Are live. When you're live, you don't get the TV ads. It's just blokes running on and off the field.
Yeah, I've been on. Yeah, the thing about NFL is the most built for TV sport in the history of time. Like it is
exactly right.
The broadcaster's dream.
Do you know? I heard somebody say this on the radio yesterday. I can't remember who said it, but did you know that when the NFL was in its infancy on US TV, the game didn't have timeouts. They were created by the TV station.
Don't they have a TV timeout as well?
Oh, they do sometimes.
Yeah, so they've got all of that fun.
Yeah, they have injury timeouts and standard timeouts.
We feel like it timeout. Yeah. Someone bought another ad timeout.
Someone go get a beer timeout.
John Stenzolt, who's a friend of the show at the Australian Financial Review, writes a lot about sport, wrote an interesting article yesterday about how the AFL propped up the Gold Coast Suns with $25 million after they had a sponsor fall over last year. It said they struggled. He said they struggled financially last year, the Gold Coast Suns. This is after their accounts were revealed, leading the cashed-up league to increase its support payment to just under $25 million. The club's financial accounts show the AFL's new broadcasting deal allowed it to tip in an extra $5.5 million on top of what they were all giving to help the Suns just break even. With the league's help, the Suns' 2000 annual report lodged late last week with the corporate regulators showed it made a net loss before finance income of just $24,000. Compared with a $3 million loss the previous year. So a small loss this year.
Just $24,000.
Yes, the slow. Analysis of the account showed the AFL was forced to shell out $24.7 million in grants to the Suns in the year to October 31, up from $19.1 million the year before, just for them to reach break even. Now, the thing that drives me crazy about this is, and I tweeted about this yesterday, and the responses were hilarious, is the whole... And first, so a lot of people when you debate this point out they regurgitate to you the AFL's argument. So I know why the AFL want to have the Suns there and are happy to put the money. It's a bulwark against league. Yeah. It's an attempt, it's the ability to create an AFL team playing every week in Queensland, so the Lions 1 week, Suns the next, have a home game each. So you got that constant media. So that's why they're doing it. It's the same with the Giants. So I get all their logic, right? So when people point that out to you, I've read the AFL's media releases. There's nothing clear. This isn't it's not like trying to understand astrophysics, like you can read it and go, I get what you're doing. So I get that. I'm not saying this terrible thing, but the thing that kind of has always bothered me is the whole about, I've always questioned, the Gold Coast is a terrible place. I would almost prefer a second team in Brisbane because the Gold Coast has shown no interest in any sporting franchise that they've ever had there, like across any code. So it's not even the NRL have had all sorts of problems. NBL, it's never had any success there. But then on top of that, the whole thing that the AFL argue is the reason that Tasmania doesn't get a team is it's not financially sustainable.
Meanwhile,
now people say, there's not the growth down in, all the reasons. But the point is, at what point and it's cynical because they know they've got Tasmania as a captured market, and they've got, Hawthorn and North Melbourne playing down there and all that sort of stuff, and they know they'll follow it no matter what. So they it's like a safe seat in politics. Yeah. They get the least things until it becomes something's unsafe, and then they go, we better buy them a new school. Yeah. So that's the sort of thing that just drives me crazy, because at what point do you let's say I agree that Tasmania will probably never make any money. Well, we're subsidising 2 teams at the moment, but at what point do you reward centuries of people following it and providing amazing players?
brilliant footballers.
It just doesn't. It just means that they say, well, we don't. You can't tell me that the reason they don't have one in Tasmania is because
Small
of the
population
because of the
and,
financial reasons. It's because it doesn't open a new market for them.
Yeah.
Like that's it. It's not. It's a captured market. We don't need to. That's be honest. Like, don't pretend.
And with the Gold Coast, I mean, sure, they tipped in 25 last year because a sponsor fell over and they were badly run and all this. But they'll probably have to do it again this year. I mean, I don't know if they've suddenly got a new sponsor that's throwing in all
They
this
do have a
money.
new sponsor. They got, I think it's Zurich Life Insurance. But the problem they've got this
Melbourne,
year,
aren't
they're
Zurich?
doing that, and then I think that's just Zurich, and then Zurich Life Insurance, I think, are doing.
Doing the Gold Coast.
But then on top of that, they've got some problems where, because of the Com Games, for the first half of the year, the Suns can't even play at their normal ground.
You know what the Gold Coast Suns need?
Clive Palmer?
A Randy kangaroo.
Get the kids down, see the Randy kangaroo.
See the Randy kangaroo.
Gee,
Get him hop around the boundary line and knock over a few
North
goalposts.
should listen to this because they got the man to become the. At times they've been the North Melbourne Randy kangaroos.
Yeah. Randy traits aren't that uncommon down there at Arden Street.
I think that's right. Arden Street's like. They've had this problem before.
Of Randy kangaroos.
So anyway, that's sort of the goal. So it does make you wonder, like, is it sustainable to? I mean, at some point, and I know this is the argument that will come back is this is a multi-generational strategy and all that stuff. At some point, blah blah blah. But at what point do you say, well, this experiment has run its course. This money could be used. Like, we would be better off just having the Brisbane Lions up there, but pouring heaps of money into all this money and $25 million into developing the local leagues up there with a view to in the future. I'll say, I don't know what it is. They'll never go backwards, though. I just can't see it happening.
I can't see it.
The league would have to be losing money for them to cut it.
But for let's say it's cost them at least $100 million for the Gold Coast Suns already.
Yeah.
And there's probably more than that. I mean, they could have built a whole new stadium in Tassie for that.
Yeah.
And got the whole thing going down there. They will never do that.
Yeah.
As you say, that they won't go backwards. But then they're not going to add a 19th team based in Tassie anytime soon.
No way.
You know, so it's a valid question. Yeah, your point. I mean, you make 25 mil they've tipped in this year.
Yeah,
probably the same again next year.
Well, they're getting over 100 mil for each of the expansion teams.
Yeah.
Like, it's an expensive.
Yeah. So the Giants have made their work for themselves pretty well.
Well, they have. I mean, but it's anemic growth. Like, look, I'm not against the Suns and the Giants. I can see the logic of the argument. So it's not.
You're not against them existing.
Well, yeah, but I can see what the AFL is trying to do. It just annoys me when they turn around and proclaim that the Tasmania thing was all done because it was financially not sustainable. When you go, neither of these two are not financially sustainable. It's not about financial sustainability. It's that they view that Tasmania is never going to grow into a market that they want, that they don't already have.
Yeah.
That they were more likely to try and move eventually North Melbourne down there.
Yeah.
That would be their easier solution.
And these two new financially unsustainable teams in the Giants and the Suns.
Yeah.
I mean, the AFL keeps saying that, it's a long-term strategy, but you've got to say, well, how long is long-term? I mean, is it another 5 years or is it 10 years? If after 10 years it's cost them $1 billion, which is, a third of their TV rights, surely they're going to have to,
well,
they're going to.
I mean, if you talk to people up at the Swans, it took them 20 years to even get close to. So, you're looking at more like 20 to 30 years. Like, this is a generational thing. It's not.
Again, if you talk to anyone at the Swans, it took them 20 years to get to where they were, and they've been so super successful and consistent for, say, the last dozen years.
Yeah.
But they also still say, but we're only one season away from the bottom falling out of it again.
Well, you look at after they lost those first 6 last year, their crowds took a real hit and then rapidly came back. So it's hard. It's hard. Like, these are not
those fickle Sydney siders.
One thing that's really been, it's made me really see that we're making great strides in the areas of equality in sport.
Right.
And was one of the really warmed my heart to see this week is Collingwood's Sarah Darcy lashed out and kicked an opponent in the groin.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't necessarily what warmed my heart. It was... I got an email from, I think it was The Age, of their top stories.
Yeah.
You know, you get sent the email of what their top stories are each morning. And it said that there was a headline saying the kick to the groin was out of character.
Yeah.
So straight away, now women have got that good bloke status. I don't know, is it good Sheila or good chick, or I don't know what the comparative slang, but already someone you see it, just lashes out and kicks someone, and instantly we've got how this person's actually a great person.
Before the game was almost over, she had a character reference ready to go.
Well, I was thinking about this, and someone tweeted me one thing, but the one out of character was the one given, but someone else said, you know, did they also fit in the bingo of a brain snap? Because there's all these, like, instantly... Like, no one ever says, yeah, that player's a bit of a mongrel. Yeah. And I'm not saying Sarah Darcy is, because I've only, you know, she's only played like 8 games, you know, so it's not like she's got a body of work where you can...
one decent kick that anyone remembers.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not like this is, you know, but no one ever says, oh, yeah, got to temper that guy. It's instantly like... Yeah. I mean, it's like it used to happen with Mitchell, and it used to happen, with Lewis and Hodge, where they'd do it for like the 10th time, and no one would ever go, got a pattern of this. They'd all go, it's a great bloke, though.
Yeah, Barry Hall was the same. You know.
Barry Hall, terrific guy. Unless he's punching you, terrific guy.
Even the Brent Staker thing, it was Barry Hall. Oh, that was a brain fade. That was, you know, he's still a character. And
I just love how that interview... Like, it's Staker, and Staker's still saying, yeah, it really affected my life and my career for years and years and years. And then, but the majority of the takeout of the coverage of that sit-down interview thing was, God, Barry suffered ever since he punched that bloke's life out. It's not who he's wanted to be. Yeah. He's really struggled with it all these years, and you're like, yeah, right.
And as you say, I mean, if in the men's game, if you kicked another player in the groin, you know, and he's a great character. At what point did somebody go, it's not the first time he's kicked somebody in the nuts? You know,
he's got form.
He's got form. You go back to the juniors.
She's been offered, Sarah Darcy's been offered under the AFL's new judiciary system. Now, to call it a judiciary system when now it's just Michael Christensen makes up the rule.
Christian, yeah.
Yeah, Christian just makes up the decision, former Collingwood player. As he goes along. Like, it's a new system. It's a one-man system, but it's a system. So this was his first one. He gave her a 2-week ban. Yeah. Now, a lot of people come out and said that's not long enough. Yeah. But the thing here is there's two sides. A lot of people then came out and defended him and said, you got to take into account it's a 7-week 7-match season then finals. So 2 weeks proportionally to the men's is
like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah. So it's quite, and that's true, except he came out himself, Michael Christian, and said I would have given the same amount. I didn't take into account the length of the season. I would have given the same for a man. So that's where it is.
It's open
so it is just like you can kick someone in the groin like that, and it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It's open slather.
If you've been kicked in the groin, you know that
you won't be blamed for 2 weeks.
You know 2 weeks is not fair.
That's 1 week.
And let's be honest, you can avoid deliberately kicking someone in the groin.
As a general rule,
Anyway, it's great to see. We had,
as you say, it is equality.
Straight away we're defending him. The question I've always wondered is, can women be good blokes?
Yeah, well,
because usually they're not allowed to be.
We've answered that,
but I think it's starting to turn.
Yeah, but until we see Daisy Pearce pushing another drunken player down the street in a shopping trolley, we won't quite have reached.
Well, I can't believe she's got into Channel 7's commentary team without glassing her boyfriend. But anyway, one story that caught my eye, John McGrath, who's a real estate agent up in Sydney, but he's got a huge real estate company that actually got floated on the stock exchange. So sort of the premium real estate
He was your
person.
Typical Sydney spiv real estate agent.
Straight off the bat. And that's a term of endearment, obviously, coming from you. Now, his company struggled a fair bit actually on the share market since it floated, but it was reported on the weekend by Fairfax that he owns a $16 million gambling debt to bookmakers William Hill. Now, that's the one that Tom Waterhouse sold off to and is CEO of, but it looks like being possibly closed down or sold off again. But apparently he's good mates with John McGrath. Now, John McGrath denies having a $16 million gambling debt, but said it was ridiculous. But William Hill wouldn't comment on it. But I think for Fairfax to publish that, they would have probably had a bit of evidence.
Well, even if it's not 16 mil, what if it's 10 or 12? That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. So,
it's fine. Who hasn't got a $12 million?
They said after the story ran, the first day of trading afterwards, it fell. Shares fell sharply. Its net was down to 47 cents. And dropped down to ended the day at 44 cents, down from $2.10 a share from December 25. So that's a fair thing. He denies it, saying it's ridiculous. But what this story said to me is, one, how does anyone, why does a betting company let someone keep racking up to that point?
Most of these corporate bookmakers, if you back two winners,
they cut you off.
They cut you off. So how do you get 16 mil down the...
That to me is one of the most. I've had so many people tell me that they got cut off because they started to win. I mean, I don't gamble, so it doesn't. I've never had it happen to me. But how are they legally even allowed to do that? If they're allowed to offer the service, the fact they can pick and choose winners and losers is. I mean, it just shows you what a corrupt setup
it's a dodgy
this
business,
is.
the whole
But
thing.
the thing about it is, it does, unfortunately for you and I. If he's built up this $16 million gambling debt, it does blow a hole in my theory that it's impossible to lose money on the horse race or gambling on horses.
Well, I didn't say it was just on horses.
You think it was all on tennis? He's a mad keen tennis bettor. Tennis is all fixed. How can you lose?
Local cricket in Bangladesh.
Did you see that footage of that game with all the run-outs?
And the stoppies.
That club, if you haven't seen it, it's a club in... It was Pakistan, wasn't it? And they all got run out, but it was so obvious they were cheating. They should get the book thrown at them, not just for cheating, but for selling the cheat so badly.
Exactly. Now, John McGrath, for those who don't know, he was on Shark Tank too, for I think the first series. He was one of your rich entrepreneurial types.
Was he?
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the next series. he might have to front the sharks himself.
I think he's more likely to end up in the jungle to try and earn some money back, pay off his debts.
In a real Shark Tank. That's how it used to work.
Story that caught my eye this week, India were playing South Africa over in South Africa at Centurion, and they won the match. It was a one-day match, and they won quite easily. But as it was heading into when there was a break in the game, a scheduled lunch break, so it was a day, wasn't a day-nighter, just a day, one-dayer, India needed just 2 runs for victory, and the umpires made them take lunch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, not just, we'll bowl another over, fellas?
Yeah.
See how we go?
They made them take lunch. So for 40 minutes, they all had to go off. Anyway, all the fans left because it's like, I'm not going 40 minutes to see my team lose.
Ball,
they had wickets in hand, and it was no problem at all for them. When they did, they were cruising at 1 for 117, and they needed 2 more.
Right.
So
would this have been to do with?
They needed 2 runs from 31 overs.
That's Big Bash League kind of stuff.
Yeah, because the South Africa went out for, what did they go out for? They went out for 119. Right. And so India 1 for 117 with 31 overs in hand. 2 runs needed, and the umpires make them take a break. Now, do you reckon the umpires were like, the food's great here?
Oh, I was about to say that. It must have been usual chicken sandwiches and
I'm starving.
Oh.
Like, what is that?
Was that to do with the broadcasters? Or
no. Well, it's no good for the broadcasters because it's like 40 minutes they've got to fill and then come in.
Oh, you've got to put the cricket show on with slats.
I've always assumed that's so good it's broadcast globally. So after the break of 40 minutes, they all came back out. they hit the winning runs. It took 9 balls following the resumption.
2 overs to get that.
2 overs, to win. That is just mad, isn't it?
Oh, that is madness at its finest. But, and this was in South Africa. It wasn't in India.
In South Africa,
things happen in Indian cricket. But
this is South Africa. Isn't that bizarre? All the players, in fairness to both India and South Africa, they all protested it and said, let's just finish it off. Yeah. This is pointless.
Makes sense.
We can all go to the pub.
Yeah, exactly. That's what would have happened.
How unmotivated you're South Africa.
Yeah.
You're sitting there for 40 minutes, and you got to go back out in the heat.
Yeah.
For them to, they're going to get it. It's pointless.
The skipper tosses you the ball. Go. Your first over after the break, Titus.
They must have. Wouldn't you just be bowling them I'm going to pitch it average.
Half volley here. Put me over that fence.
Yeah, everyone get out of here.
Pub,
you found this story, and I know I think it's a story about streakers, and I'm pretty sure you've just got a Google alert set up for streakers.
Did I find this story?
Yeah, you emailed it to me about a week ago.
I don't even remember. There's so many streaker stories across my desk.
So we had the one at the opening of the Perth Oval, Optus Oval.
That's right.
We had the streaker famously get on and run around for ages, and the security were hopeless.
And then tried to crowdfund his $6,000.
Yeah, did he manage to do it?
No,
I don't know.
Think so.
Oh, poor guy. So you might think twice if you were going to do it in Phoenix, in Arizona, in America, at the Phoenix Open, which is actually called, because of its sponsor, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. I kid you not.
Waste Management, yeah.
How bad's that?
The CEO is Tony Soprano.
Well, yeah, what rubbish. The Scottsdale Police Department that oversee that area of America and police the Phoenix Open released a statement because there was a streaker that got a lot of attention on the 17th hole during it was a pro-am because he lay down on the 17th hole completely naked and
he didn't run up and hit the flag, did he? And it come back and whack him in the face.
It was a Randy Roo.
He got a bit upset.
So anyway, he was actually a 24-year-old Adam Stalmack. He was arrested and is facing misdemeanor charges of indecent exposure and disorderly conduct. Now, police then went on to warn any attendees who decide to do it, decided that they're going to up the ante to stop streakers.
Right. Because they are a problem at professional golf tournaments.
Yeah, that's what you think, professional golf. This guy had been watching Happy Gilmore before he came to the course.
Yeah. I don't think you'd be getting a ticket to Augusta somehow, this bloke.
So tell me if you think this would work in Australia to stop streakers. Police warned that any attendees who decide to bear it all would be arrested and charged with a Class 1 misdemeanor, which can carry a maximum of 6 months in prison. Right. That was the first thing. This is the bit where it gets interesting. The misdemeanor could also be accompanied by felony charges and sex offender registration. So get put on the sex offender register if police identify any witnesses in the crowd younger than 15 years old.
Oh, yeah, kids at the golf.
So do you think that being put on a sex offender register would stop people streaking? It's a pretty extreme.
Well, I don't know.
Because remember, mooning's been brought in and banned in Victoria as part of. It's under the sex offenders legislation, but it's considered but it's not. You don't get put on the sex offender register.
And nobody ever gets the maximum penalty in Victoria.
Ever
for anything.
No.
So, but this bloke. I mean, you got to remember, cops in Arizona, they don't take no prisoners as a general.
I know, but imagine you were on the sex offender register and what did you do?
Mate? Yeah.
I streaked at the golf. No, seriously.
Yeah. But you got to remember, if generally anyone who streaks at a sporting event, it'd be fair to say alcohol's involved.
Yeah.
So it's going to have clouded your judgment. But surely that thought of that might sober you up a bit.
But can you also say that if you're under 15 and you see a naked person, that's like that person's a sexual offender? It's a bit of a stretch.
It is.
With the internet these days.
All those kids have got iPads of their own.
My favourite bit was the police reminded people that fighting, swimming in the lake and loud heckling are all crimes at the golf. Swimming in the lake.
Well,
how much fighting is going on at this?
At the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
It sounds like a wild time.
Well, they do have like the party hole they call 17. This is the one where they've got grandstands all the way along,
right?
And they encourage the crowd to get on the grog, and it's the one hole on the whole course where you're allowed to be loud and heckle.
Right.
And
so this is the attempt of golf to sort of do the AFLX of golf.
Yeah, do the T20 sort of thing. I mean, I did see, when I did see this story originally, you could see...
Which you'd forgotten until 2 minutes ago.
There was a fairly wide shot someone had taken on their phone of this bloke lying naked on the green.
Yeah,
and
like a Randy Roo.
Like a Randy Roo. And the caption somebody had put under it was, Robert Allenby struggling again at the Phoenix.
Oh, good old Rob. Oh, anyway, so there we go. That might be worth a trip to the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Then
we might have a crack at
keep
that.
Keep your clothes on though.
And it's the Super Bowl week. You can do the two.
Do the double.
Do the double.
We had some listeners' questions come in. Colin Rouston wrote in, with the lack of controversy about current AFL footballers over the summer, does it mean that players are behaving themselves better these days, or are they getting better at covering things up?
Well, it's a good question, but it's a hard one to answer because...
It's a bit like Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. Is the cat alive or dead? We don't know. We just don't know. It could be. They could. I think it's like players these days, it's so easy to get caught with phones and camera phones and social media and stuff that I reckon if they're getting up to any mischief, if they're smart, and I've spoken to a couple of players, like now if they do certain things, they have a deal with a pub where they trust the pub owner and they just close off the pub or a room where and it's just them.
And it's why, I mean, and I know all the players have got a lot more money these days, but it's why so many of them, they get on a plane overseas.
The minute the season's over.
Now, I remember like 25 years ago, in October, I ended up being up at the Gold Coast with a couple of mates on a golf trip with a Randy Kangaroo, and the entire, I think it was Collingwood, the entire team sitting in the beer garden at the Surfers Paradise Hotel, just chewing down schooners like you wouldn't believe. And there was nothing untoward or
no, we did,
but there was every player at the club had gone to Surfers on their. There was a footy trip. It was the footy trip. Now they're all done individually.
They discourage them all going away in a group. One, because there's trouble, but after the Bali bombings and stuff, there was also a bit of a thing of, they don't want to have everyone in the one spot.
No, exactly.
So a lot of them go and do other stuff. But, if you were, you'd get out of town. Get out of Melbourne at very least. Craig Taylor wrote in, with the current scandals surrounding ex-mayor Robert Doyle, this is Melbourne mayor, who's just been he just quit over sexual harassment charges or accusations and claims. Chris Craig says, will they be at Channel 7 be offering him a spot on the Friday night football commentary team? It's highly possible. That's the quickest way to get in there.
Not that he was in similar circumstance, but James Brayshaw is now joining the Channel 7.
I saw that. What are your thoughts of that?
Oh, look, I don't know Brayshaw. I don't think I've ever even met the guy. But I think he's a very capable caller.
I don't find Brayshaw as annoying as everyone. Like a lot of people
can't stand him.
And I understand because it's all subjective, right? You can't. But more on my spectrum of people I can't stand. He's not anywhere near.
So he'll be fine. He'll be fine there.
You can tell they needed someone who could call. Yeah. They're desperate for a few there.
Don't know if I'd go with Robert Doyle as a boundary rider.
Too Long in the Bush wrote in, will Bomber Thompson's drug arrest test your... Well, he wasn't actually arrested, I should clarify. I think he was brought in for questioning.
He was questioned.
Accuracy is always the thing we care about on this podcast. Does it test your theory that a good bloke will always be able to find a job in footy no matter the transgression? Well, I don't think it does. I mean, Bomber's had a lot of work. I mean, he was on Fox Footy until recently. I mean... if he wants a job back in footy at some point, he will get a job back in footy. I was
just about to say exactly the same thing. He may well take 2018 off.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the money. He's always paid handsomely to coach and then at Fox, and then he cashed up. He had that real
property
estate
deal.
So he's not
made like $8 million or something.
Yeah, $8 million one transaction.
And then he's had the drug importation ring.
Alleged drug importation ring.
He made a fortune out of that.
It wouldn't surprise anyone if he just... I think he went overseas if he just kept his head low this year. But next year, if he put his hand up and wanted to be back on telly...
Someone would take him.
Of course they would.
It's not... I mean...
He probably won't coach again. I don't think he wants to coach again. But if he wanted to... You know.
Well, the thing too would be, I don't know if he do come back as a senior coach, but if someone like the AFL loves to forgive people. If someone's seen as turning their career around, you know, who knows? But he'll be back in the media at some point, surely. Yeah. Now we've got a bunch of questions for you, Serge.
Me?
Steak Sandwich wrote in, given the roaring success of Serge's wait for age explanation.
Oh, thanks.
Now, that was your racing. You've explained a couple of times on this podcast what wait for age means in racing. Yeah. Can you get Serge to explain cryptocurrency?
Right. Probably won't go into it in great detail today, Sandwich. All I'll say, I mean, if you refer back, I think in December I explained Bitcoin.
That's right. You did do a bit of Bitcoin
before. I think you could probably, in a nutshell, just describe it as a digital money source / Ponzi scheme. I'll look it up for you in greater detail next week.
That's pretty accurate, actually. A Digital Watch wrote in, is it true Serge will make a cameo as himself in the latest Underbelly?
I was hoping to put my hand up. I wanted to play Neville Bartos.
Right.
Mate, there's no cash here. Here, there is no cash.
Since you've... they don't really need to remake Chopper.
No, they don't.
For TV too. Like, the Chopper movies,
stands alone, it's one of the all-time great movies.
But also, it's been done. Yeah. It's like, of all the things that they...
Having said that, they reckon, and I've seen about 5 minutes of this new Underbelly one.
Right. Because you're in it.
It looks pretty good. And they reckon they've done a pretty good job on it.
Well, maybe they have.
I still don't think we need it.
It's like, I can understand some remakes, but a lot of them, they rarely remake bad movies. They pick good movies and then go, we're remaking one movie that's already good.
The only decent remake I've seen lately is Planet of the Apes. You know?
You love Planet of the Apes.
I love Planet of the Apes.
You just love talking apes.
any kind of talking, performing primate has got me.
You're a simple man. Simple. But did you because you always know someone.
Yeah.
You know, whenever we bring something up, you've got an in. Yeah. The whole Melbourne Gangland Wars. Did you know any of them? Because remember the Morans are all heavily tied up with Carlton, which I like to bring up regularly.
I remember meeting Alphonse Gangitano once at the Underground nightclub.
Really?
But I didn't know at the time. He was a sort of, very slick, arrogant, woggy-looking bloke, and you just had a feeling that he was dangerous or no good. But everybody knew him at the nightclub scene.
Right.
And you meet him.
So you got a feeling straight away that he was...
So this is Alphonse. I got Alphonse. And it wasn't until a few years later you see on the news go, that bloke who's just been charged with Mark Moran with, glassing blokes.
So Alphonse...
Some joint in King Street. That was that Alphonse.
So Alphonse was played by Vince Colosimo.
Yeah.
Do you think Vince could stop the method acting now?
Yeah, maybe.
He took that role a bit dark.
A little less ice charges and driving and a little more script work.
Michael Barbaro wrote in, last question, and we always say the most important thought-provoking question for us. If Tim is short for Timothy, why isn't Jim short for Jimothy?
Oh, Michael, you've been drinking.
Now, we need to award...
I don't know about you, but I'll tell you what I reckon my favourite question is.
Yeah.
Ben Wesley. With so many sportsmen desperate for relevance.
This is the one I had.
How long until North Melbourne use I'm a Celebrity for pre-season training?
Yes, very well done. That was a good one.
Good work, Ben.
There's some good ones, actually. It was a good field this week. Now, we promised last week we were going to come back and do Thursday, and then we didn't.
No.
But we are going to do Thursday this week, aren't we?
I think we will.
I wish the listeners could see the look on your face was just pure sincerity.
Really?
No, it did. You look like, I believe currently you are.
Yeah, no, Thursday should be good.
Oh, what a disgrace. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You can subscribe to this podcast and help support us as well. I'll put the link in the show notes for the tickets to my comedy festival shows, Sydney and Melbourne, and I would like to come and do some other cities as well. So keep your eye out for that if you haven't got tickets already. It's a small venue. I think it's like 70 people a night, but I do like 6 nights a week for a month.
Small venue, everyone's got a good seat. You'll be able to see the whites of his eyes.
The bloodshotness of my eyes. I'm even thinking of sitting down and writing the show soon.
Yeah, you might want to do that at some stage. Like you've got a month.
That's right. I've got the work experience kids on it.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you later the week.